I'm about to work a little bit of landscaping magic as I turn back time on this front lawn. My name is Carson and with the help of the Green Force team, we're about to replace all of this grass with a historically accurate garden in front of this heritage home. But this isn't just an old house. This is Perram House, a palliative care residential hospice.
People who come to us are terminally ill, have a 3 to 6 month life expectancy. So they're dealing with a lot of end-of-life issues.
The front of the house, it's just always been a mess. So we need it to be made better.
It's been lacking, kind of boring, just a plain grass front.
It has very little character, has a lot of weeds. There have been difficulties with trying to grow grass there. It's not reflective of the things that are going on inside the house, the spirit of the house. So we're hoping that Green Force can help us bring some of that outside.
Let's go talk about your front yard. So what would you actually like to see out here? I mean, what do your residents need?
Well, people come out here to sit and reflect and think out on this particular space right here.
Oh, yeah, we gotta do better than that. All right, let's talk about this area out front. Flat, we have 2 pots.
Very wonderfully placed flower pots, but
Yes, and nothing else.
No, we're a nonprofit organization, so we try to use our funds for the inside of the house as much as we possibly can. It's just not something that we have enough money for to maintain for doing the outside of the house.
We have a fence.
Yes, not a very attractive one, but yes, a fence.
I also noticed that you've got an alleyway here.
Yes, we do.
Do you use that?
No, maybe other people do.
Security issue?
Yes.
Okay, then let's just get rid of that.
Okay.
All right. Other than that, I'm guessing because this is a heritage home, I have to meet some requirements.
Yes.
It has to be fairly historically accurate. This building has definitely got a lot of character, so this space is gonna have to as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. This is gonna be a really positive experience. I'm looking
Great.
forward to it. This project at Perram House really opened my eyes to a whole group of people that needed help that I didn't really know existed. And now I feel much better about creating a space for them to have peace and to find some dignity. So that's the space.
That's really green. Wow. It's a lot of plants.
The plant material is actually what's going to set the stage for this particular space. What I'm going to create for you is a formal garden. Formal in this case means a lot of hedges.
Okay.
Now hedges are actually not bad, and I love working with them, especially boxwood, because it's a very easy plant to look after. It's green, it looks good all year round, but we're going to be putting a lot in. We're actually talking about thousands of plants in this space.
Thousands.
Yeah. When it comes to designing a garden for Perram House, I need to create something that's in keeping with the history of the building. And for me, that means a formal design. Now, the French call this style of garden a parterre. The English call it a knot garden, but it's basically the same thing. It's a series of low hedges around different areas of interest. A famous landscaper once said to me that parterres are basically like paragraphs, where the horizontal elements are the punctuation that tells the story, and the vertical elements are the exclamation points. And I think that's a perfect analogy, especially considering that once I'm done this space, it's gonna have a lot to say. I'm gonna be using things like roses and lavender. I really want to enhance the time that you spend in the garden, and those scents will kind of drift through and really make it pleasurable to be out there.
That'll be really nice.
To break up the straight lines a little bit though, I'm gonna go with some verticals this way, which have point. So your angles will come out this way, and then you'll have peaks of interest throughout the entire space.
It'll make a lovely impression when you're walking up the walkway.
Absolutely.
What is that?
Now you asked for seating.
Yes.
I have 2 benches here. The benches face out into the street area.
What's all this going on the side here?
How do you feel about mirrors?
In magic shows, great.
Well, we are going to be creating a little garden magic today for you.
Okay.
I'm going to be using mirrors to help hide the neighbor's building and their fence.
Wow.
But I'm going to be framing the mirrors in wood.
That's a lovely warm color for that then.
Well, it is, and I think it plays up nicely on the colors of the house too.
You know, people will appreciate having a space where they can reflect and talk and think. And
As long as you're happy with it and happy with the design as I've presented it to you, we can pretty much go ahead and start breaking ground.
please start. That sounds wonderful. Looks like it's a lot of work. So it'll be interesting to see how that all comes together.
I can't believe how far ahead you guys are.
They're good boys, they work hard.
Just for continuity's sake, I think we're gonna have to repeat boxwood. So boxwood, and in here?
Boxwood along the sidewalk might be a problem.
Why?
Boxwood is very susceptible to salt.
I don't think I actually knew that.
It's a big deal. It's almost allergic. Within an hour, the bark will peel back.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so we won't go with boxwood. Let's go with the yew. It can still be pruned and trained, which is giving it the look that I wanted, which was kind of squared off.
Sure, and that goes with the building.
Okay, so then we'll do the whole front section with yew, and then the grasses, and then the boxwood.
Right.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
The other good news is more for me than you, though.
Okay.
Because you guys are so far ahead. This job's gonna be cheaper. Love that. I'm at the nursery today sourcing my plants for my formal garden for Perram House. Now, I'm starting with the hedging material, and for the first hedge, right along the sidewalk, I'm going with the yews because Sean suggested that they'd be a little bit more salt tolerant. This is a Ward's yew, and as you can see, it's got a lot of branches going in a lot of different directions, which can make a hedge. However, it requires a lot of maintenance and a lot of pruning to keep it nice and tidy. However, this type of yew, which is the one I'm going with, is a Hicks yew. It has vertical branches, which means it stays fairly narrow, but it gets nice and tall. And I like it because it does very well in shade. Perfect for underneath those trees. Now, even though I'm using the yew as my main hedge in this garden, I still have a lot of other hedges in the space that I want to include. And for those hedges, I'm going with boxwoods. Boxwood has this fantastic green color. Now in my design, I'm going to use it to frame out different areas of interest in the space with some really colorful plants. And those plants look good with boxwood as a backdrop. Now for those plants, I have a few different things in mind. One of them is just over here. Because I want 4 seasons of interest in this garden, I'm going with a specific type of perennial. Now these are sedum, and the reason I've selected sedum is because they bloom at the end of summer. In fact, this giant flower head here will be covered in bright pink flowers, kind of like that there. So not only am I extending my color in the garden, I'm also going to use these in a very tight clump, which gives me an intense focal point, ideal for a formal garden. Believe it or not, most of the hard work is already done at Perram House.
This is scheduled?
It doesn't look like it.
Oh, okay.
The Green Forest team is helping out Perram House, a palliative care hospice located in a heritage home in Toronto. I'm redesigning their front yard to better reflect this Victorian building, which means getting rid of all the weedy grass and the old concrete path, and replacing them both with a formal garden suitable for reflection. So the first thing up is to find the right bench seating for this space. I'm sourcing the benches today for Perram House. Now this particular bench is made out of cast aluminum, which has a lot of pros and cons. It's lightweight and it doesn't rust, which is a good thing. However, in this particular look, I want something that's very inviting. And I don't think this bench has that right feeling. It looks a little bit uncomfortable to sit in, which is why I have some other options to choose from. Well, this is definitely a more comfortable option than the cast aluminum, but it's not quite the right look that I'm going for. Now this is resin wicker. And I like resin wicker because it's very low maintenance. And with these great outdoor cushions, it can basically handle rain or shine and still look good pretty much all year long. However, I find that resin wicker gives a more casual look. And because we're designing for a heritage home, this isn't quite right. I need something slightly more formal, and I have just the thing in mind. Ordinarily, I am very cautious about using wood furniture in a garden because it tends to be higher maintenance. But in this particular design, I'm only using 2 benches, so I think I'm keeping the workload to a minimum. Now, this particular bench is ideal for a few different reasons. I love the clean lines. It's got that formal look I was going for, but because it's got such a nice warm color, it's very inviting. And best of all, I have other wooden elements in the garden, so the benches tie everything together. With the benches picked out, it's time to find the right stone for the main pathway. I want something that's both locally sourced and in keeping with the look of the heritage home. I think in this case, we're gonna go with the Owen Sound.
Okay.
The house that I'm working on is a heritage home, so I have to do something fairly traditional. And for me, this is traditional flagstone.
Okay, the black is more of a pebble top.
So that's not a man-made finish. That's actually coming out in sheets from the quarry that way.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, it is a natural finish. And some of it, it's got some of the beigey colors in it.
Okay.
And I've got it over at the other side there if you want to look at it.
Now this is the pebble top you're talking about?
That's right, yeah. And this is what we're referring to as the beige pebble top. There is some black mixed in there, but it's mostly beige.
Color-wise, it's perfect. I love that there's some yellow tones in here too, because the house itself has some yellow in the bricks.
Okay.
Because it's a natural flagstone though, it's gonna have slightly different thicknesses, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I'll probably have to chip some of that out to make it nice and smooth, because it is a front walkway and I want to make it as smooth as possible. But texture, it's perfect, it's stunning. So I need 300 square feet of this.
Not a problem.
See, Tino, you make my job easy. Let's go write it up.
Okay.
Believe it or not, most of the hard work is already done at Perram House. We've replaced all the beds with fantastic new organic earth, and we start putting in the walkway. Now, I know all the hard stuff's done, but Sandy's coming to the garden today to see how much we've actually accomplished, and I'm not sure she's gonna be as impressed. Well, it's very natural, and they're gonna do a random pattern there.
Okay.
So it's not going to look like row on row on row, it's all gonna be broken down, okay?
Great.
And it's
Okay.
gonna go straight down.
Give some character to it.
Exactly. Now you'll notice we've prepped all the plant beds already, and we've got a couple of different soils. This is where all the trees and shrubs and grasses are gonna go. Whereas this is ready for grass, which you asked for.
Yes.
I didn't want it,
did,
you
we
wanted
did.
it.
Sounds wonderful.
Now I'm gonna line up the bench because I want to do seating basically right about here. Because I think this is nice. We'll frame it with the bay window looking out into that space. Actually, you stand here, okay? And this is where the bench is. This whole section is going to be planted. So it's going to be full and it'll give you some privacy. But it's going to be very lush and very full in here.
I'm sure it'll look beautiful when it's done. It just got a lot to go to get there.
Are you okay with this?
It's wonderful. It sounds exciting.
Now we're pretty much on schedule.
This is scheduled?
It doesn't look like it.
Oh, okay.
All you have left really are a bunch of plants. I've got something planned for the back section over there.
Okay.
And then this is gonna be done.
I don't know what Carson means by schedule, but I mean, he's got time, but that's a lot of work that has to be done.
With all the flower beds prepped, it's time to get planting.
Hey, Carson,
Yes.
can you come in a minute?
With or without power tools?
If you can fix this with a nail gun, I'll be impressed.
What's going on?
We got, you want to scale?
Oh, that's kind of gross, actually.
Very disgusting.
Is that like the same scale that you get on tropical plants?
Same family, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are gross.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting stuff. Really icky.
Do we need to replace them or can we treat them?
It's only going to come in again.
So then this is fairly prolific.
It is. It's pretty much everywhere. As with anything where we use a lot of one plant, some insect is going to come along and go buffet and take over.
Okay, then let's leave the standards as they are.
Yeah.
I'll teach the people at the house how to use dormant oil to kill off the
Excellent.
euonymus scale, and I guess we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think that's all we can do.
Yeah, the nail gun wouldn't have worked.
Fair enough.
Well, I've run into a bit of a problem with my own project. And as you can see, it's a long way from being finished, which means I need to keep going so that we can stay on schedule.
The Green Force team and I are creating a Victorian-inspired garden in front of Perram House, a heritage building located in downtown Toronto. The old grass is long gone and the garden is starting to take shape. We've installed a series of hedges, laid out a new flagstone pathway, sourced 2 beautiful teak benches, and now it's time to get started on my project.
Because Sandy asked me to change my design a little bit and wanted to put grass down the center of the space, I'm going to take advantage of that to help me hide this neighbor's fence. Now I'm building something called trompe-l'oeil, which is basically to fool the eye. It's a gateway to nowhere. I'm going to work with cedar because I want this to be a showstopper. So I've got 4x4s, 2x4s, 2x2s, and 1x1s. There's also one other important ingredient. You need mirrors for this. This is what fools the eye. You think there's a pathway, but really it's just reflecting the original garden back in the space, which creates a never-ending vista, which is a really cool effect. Well, I've run into a bit of a problem with my own project. Now, originally I wanted this post right here to be about where I'm standing. However, when I was putting my fence spike into the ground, you can see I've hit a rock. So I've had to adjust my design accordingly. Now I'm going in a straight line. Now, I still want it to look like it's got some depth, that the gateway is running into the mirror. So to make this happen, I've put my braces on an angle. Now, to make the effect work, you need to have very specific angles. At the top, you want it pointing down to the mirror. However, at the bottom, you need it pointing up. That creates the illusion of depth. I'm going to repeat this on that side, and then the project will be just about finished.
The last element that I want to add to this heritage-inspired garden is some solar lighting.
Okay. I think that's probably the right size. Now, how does this go together?
Start with the base.
Is that a solid piece of wood?
That's a solid piece of wood.
That's fantastic. Now, is there a reforestation program behind that?
It's fully FSC certified.
Now, what are the switches on the bottom of the top that I noticed?
The switches on the bottom, you got summer and winter.
Why would you have winter and summer?
Well, in summer, the solar panel charges the lithium-ion battery at a regular speed and effectively.
Okay.
The winter setting optimizes the battery charging
Yes?
with the solar cell, and it runs for 6 to 8 hours at night. But with the winter setting, it allows it to run for 3 or 4 nights concurrently without seeing any sun.
Oh, that's beautiful. Now all I need is 5 more.
No problem.
Okay. So very important that the U's go very straight,
Yep.
especially for pruning. So
Of course.
the last thing we want to do is prune these crazy.
You don't want the sides all scalped on one?
No, no shaving. So straight line, perfect.
Okay.
Then we'll do grasses next.
Yep.
And the grasses will hide all of these boxes.
Yep, in all but June, yep.
Yeah, yeah. And then we've got boxwoods here. So really it's only 3 plants, but I
Right.
think it's going to create a really good effect.
I like it. It'll look nice and formal with the architecture.
Okay, so let's go to that end and we can start lining them up.
Fair enough.
Well, the garden's definitely starting to look very formal, and that's in part to all the straight rows of the plants, specifically the yews and the boxwoods. And once we've pruned them, it's really going to play up that whole geometry I was trying to create here. Another thing that works in that same idea is this walkway. Now, this is a very straight line, and we've gone with a natural stone, which is in keeping with the history of the house, but we've gone with a more modern look, which is the square cut variety. I also like the idea that the walkway, while running in this direction, is different than the way the sod runs, which is this way, which is perpendicular to the stone. And I love that because it's a nice juxtaposition in the space, which is also played up in my trompe-l'oeil, which is basically a big mirror. But what it does is it reflects the garden back at you as you come down the walkway. And as you can see, it's a long way from being finished, which means I need to keep going so that we can stay on schedule.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
I melted down when I saw this.
It's a lot. I wasn't expecting quite this much.
Green Force has taken a neglected space in front of Perram House and replaced it with a garden that's in keeping with this building's history. We've ripped out all the old grass and have replaced it with a series of hedges, small gardens, and fragrant flowers. As well, we've created several seating areas and a little more privacy, which will help the residents enjoy a quiet time for reflection. With just a few final touches to add, this space will be ready to show Sandy and the rest of the volunteers at Perram House.
Lavender is a staple for a formal garden. It was often used because it smells so fantastic, which is perfect for this location here at Perram House. Now, there are a few things to making lavender grow well. It likes well-drained soil. It basically wants to be hot and dry, and you need to prune it back every spring. Now, to make sure that this grows really big, prune it back to the new growth. Every winter, you'll lose a certain amount of the plant. But if you do that, it will grow very prolifically. In fact, in one season, it will fill this entire bed. These American bittersweet vines are a very important part of this project because what they do is they soften the lines of the trompe-l'oeil. The vines grow on the wood part of the structure and not on the mirror, so they take away all the horizontal elements. Now I have a garden, perfect for reflecting in. I'll go get Sandy. Hi, you ready to see this?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. Look at all this. Look at all the colors. It's beautiful, it's lush, it's open, it's warm. It's exactly what we wanted and more. This is really nice.
You're not supposed to look at the plants. Look at the new planters.
Oh, it's lovely.
I was trying to keep the heritage of the building. It was
Yes.
very important. I'm really glad the Heritage Society got involved in this particular project. It made me do something that I think is very true to the nature of the building. Now we have a period garden that's totally in keeping with Perram House. Now, a few of the elements that we have done, we put in the gate for you, okay? It's a very simple design that's not meant to be a focal point. It's
It
for
blends
security
in.
only.
Yeah.
Now that is a focal point.
Uh-huh.
Now that's the trompe-l'oeil I was talking about.
Okay.
And basically when you stand back and you look at it, it has vanishing points because of the different angles in the lattice.
It's beautiful.
But you don't see the fence anymore, which is the key. You see only garden reflecting back at you. Now we also finished your pathway.
Yes, you
Now,
did.
this is the natural stone that the Heritage Society asked for.
It's quite attractive and it really complements the house. It
Good.
really does. Thank you.
Of course, you now have beautiful grass, which you asked for.
Yes, absolutely. It's beautiful.
Speaking of which, let's talk about some of the plants.
Okay.
These are boxwoods.
Okay.
All right. They do need to be pruned, but I'd wait till they get about 2 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we haven't done them yet.
So wonderful. I can just imagine what it'll look like next spring.
Now the yews have been pruned.
Okay, great.
Okay, that's the height you want to keep them at.
Okay.
keep cutting them back at that height, and they'll fill in all the gaps in between and create a solid wall.
Oh, that'll be great for our residents in terms of privacy for their family and friends.
Especially when
That'll
they're
be
sitting
great.
out here on the new benches.
That's right. Oh, the type of wood you chose is quite warm. It's beautiful. Carson's really captured what I'd asked before in terms of trying to bring some of the beauty of what goes on in the house to the outside of the house as well, and that's so important. He really did capture it. It's more than we could have ever dreamed or asked for. Thank you.
You know what? This is a lot of fun being here.
Thank you for coming.
No problem.
You know, Carson, we can always use volunteers here at Perram House.
I melted down when I saw this. I couldn't have imagined a more suitable or more beautiful garden.
I like the definition now that we have between the street and the garden. Now, we had no definition before.
It's a lot. I wasn't expecting quite this much.
When I was first approached to create a space here at Perram House, I knew that this was going to be a garden design all about respect. Not only did I need to respect the history of the home and design something in keeping with its heritage, but I also needed to respect the people that were going to be using this front yard. And through the hard work of the Green Force team, we've created a peaceful space with distinction. My name is Carson Arthur. Thanks for watching.
It'll mean so much to people in so many different ways. They'll have a first wonderful impression when they walk into the house. People will have privacy to sit and talk with their family friends without being gawked at or stared at, and it's something that they'll enjoy. Again, it reflects what goes on inside the house, so they'll be more comfortable.
The garden is very intense and yet very formal and very comforting, and that's what the house is inside.